essay on Dewey's approach to education, or on constructivism, like us. And they are kind of forced to do that because they've got to generate a grade. And we've got to decide whether or not you move on. And these materials, this wonderful thinking that occurs in the generation of these essays, and sometimes little research projects that end up with little reports based on maybe some little empirical study they did, an action research project, a little action research project. And you know, some of our students, many of our students actually work in the field. Often they are practicing teachers. Not just teachers, but they may be practicing in a nursing field. Because our program doesn't attract only those working in the school system of education, but they may be working in educational-oriented departments and training facilities in all sorts of different places of work. So we attract these students and they learn to be academics. And then they generate wonderful pieces of knowledge through these programs. But often, and our students think, that that material ends either in a file on their bookshelf or in a file in the professor's shelves, and eventually maybe gets shredded. And all those wonderful ideas go into the dustbin of history, which is a shame, because we professional academics know that that's not the end result of our work. Our work is not supposed to go into shredders. It's supposed to get out and disseminated to generate that cycle I was talking about. So I think it's important, and I think all faculty should consider doing this, and I'm happy that we decided to do it. Some faculties have already done it too, because they have their own internal journals as well. So we're happy to continue in that tradition here at UOIT's Faculty of Education in having created this journal for student work and honoring the work that our students do in this way. So I'm going to go back because, you know, just not too long ago, I was rummaging through my own bookshelves and I came across a file from my MEd program at Boise, which was now about 15 years ago or so. And I took a look at a couple of those little essays I wrote. Actually, although now kind of as a professor who has graded other people's work, I looked at them and I said, you know what? It wasn't too shabby, that article. And I actually had forgotten what it was about. I actually learned for myself again, right? Something about SWOT analysis that I did in the, because I started out down at Boise in the TPS department, the Theory and Policy Studies. It was Ed and Min. And so it was all about SWOT analysis and strategic planning kind of thing. And of course, I got myself into curriculum. Eventually, I actually transferred from one department to another. And I graduated, you know, looking at, kind of the sociology and philosophical underpinnings of science education, curriculum and stuff. All that other stuff became quite a distant memory, right? And very fuzzy in my head. But when I read that article I wrote, that little essay, I think I got a B+ on it. You know, when I read it, I said, I'm going to give myself an A at least. Now, you know, as a guy who does this for money, but at the time, so I said, that was a good article. And I relearned about SWOT analysis. So why can't we have that happen with our students among each other, and for me to learn from them by reading their articles in a different light from trying to generate a grade based on a rubric that I have beside me, right? It's a very technical thing to do. And sometimes, you know, you read through those articles, sometimes you try to make sense of what they're saying, because of course it's important. That's what we look for. We look for meaning, not just technical, you know, like grammatical correctness and stuff. We look for that too, because it's part of the rubric. But sometimes you're reading for grading, and it becomes so routine that you don't really deeply kind of think about what's being written and said. We should. So it would be nice to have these articles, and then our students in our courses, and hopefully elsewhere in other courses, can start citing each other, right? Like I learned from a peer, not necessarily a Nobel laureate, necessarily, right? So that is a good thing. And I think that's one of the great benefits of doing this at the student level. So I actually came by this a bit naturally when I was asked by Roland and Francois of the EI Lab. Well, we had started talking about doing a journal, and I was part of those early discussions. But there came a point where, okay, let's make this real. And, you know, publication needs an editor. Kind of needs a point person to blame when things go wrong. Or when there are delays.
You finally got it.
I know. I figured that one too. Late in the game. But anyway, so when they asked me if I would like to be the editor and kind of shepherd this, I kind of said yes right away. And the reason is because back in 2000, back in the year 2000, I had got the same idea for high school students. And at the time, I was in the master's program at UOIT. But even before that, when I was a teacher, actually at Mary Ward, where Gary Poole was the principal, even then, it bothered me that a lot of our students' homework work, products of their homework, were only being used for grading purposes, or put them on the wall of the room and let others see the good stuff. And then it got taken down and just eventually thrown away. I mean, how much of the stuff we would be swimming in it if we kept all the work of every student in the whole world? So eventually it gets processed. But I said to myself, why does it have to be that way? So a colleague of mine and I, a colleague of mine from New York, I met her. We were at a board office meeting, and I said, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but I need someone to help me. So out in the parking lot, I said to my colleague, I said, look, do you agree that we throw away a lot of student project work and essay work, mark it, give it back to them, and we know what ends up happening to it? And she said, yeah. I said, well, why don't we fix that and stop it? And at least give high school students an opportunity to make their work become timeless and enduring. Okay, how do we do that? By the way, 1998, 99, 2000, the World Wide Web, just the graphic user interface was not there. And there was no Google. It was just starting, okay? So print was the way to go at the time. And I said, yeah, let's create a journal. So we did. And we called it Ion Science, a student journal in science and technology. That's one issue. There's another issue. I just brought a couple to show you. And this, I'll just read you. This was our inaugural issue. And I'll read you the editorial we wrote. And it says, publication of the first issue of Ion Science, a student journal in science and technology, marks a milestone in science education in the province of Ontario. Until now, few opportunities existed for students to communicate their school-based science and technology experiences with peers and others beyond the confines of their classroom or school. Throughout the province and across the country, students continually produce exemplary schoolwork that goes largely unnoticed. Following assessment, wonderful pieces of creative writing, dazzling works of art, insightful solutions to technological problems, and brilliant scientific investigations, science labs, are stored in filing cabinets and soon discarded. Ion Science will help reverse this trend by providing a vehicle for students to publish their work and disseminate it widely. Recent studies in science education provided evidence for the importance of students' participation in science as a learning community. Ion Science will facilitate the establishment of an extended community of learners akin to those that exist among practicing scientists worldwide. The journal furnishes a critical yet missing component in the development of a scientifically literate populace. Students will now not only be able to create and perform science and technology activities, but they will be able to communicate their works to a broader audience, including their peers and others in the education community. I think that kind of summarizes so that if you see the title, you might be interested and click on it. This was done by a Master of Education student. Our feature article currently is empowering adult learners through blogging with iPads and iPods. It was done by Anna Rodriguez, who happened to be a Durham College instructor taking a Master of Ed program here with us. And now she's back at Durham doing her thing there. And now she's a PhD student at Boise, I think. Yeah. I'm sure that if we had a PhD program, she would have stuck with us. But anyway, this is one of the reasons we want to create a PhD program. You know what I mean? Keep our own. But anyway, it then gives a little introduction to what JEI is. If we can go to the next slide, Todd. But critically, let's face it, and this happened in Ion Science Journal. By the way, this was published by UOIT Press. And they took over the editorial aspects of this journal, which is always a lot of work. Insane amount of work. Because let's face it, students do produce wonderful work. But if we only selected the work of the best, then this would not live up to its calling. This was a journal that allowed any student to submit any work that they did. Of course, there would be a selection process, but it wasn't based on, you know, the student who won the science fair, Canada-wide science fair that year. I mean, that would not live up to its calling. Its calling was that any student, anywhere, just doing homework, could get the work, the product published. So long as it was good quality to a degree, but we always, you know, we'd like to help a bit of a grammar. You know, we always worked with the student, right? It was a negotiation. It was never submit your manuscript. It goes to a professional editor and gets really developmentally edited so much that it hardly, you know, looks like the original paper or the original report. But a little editing helps because to some degree we want to model good work with the others who read, right? And we don't want to model a lot of spelling errors, a lot of grammatical errors when others are reading it for learning. So, so there is editorial that we do with it. And here too, we would like to help our MEd students or master's students take their manuscript and improve it, right? Almost only for technical purposes. We would never touch the ideas in there, but only for technical grammatical purposes. And it is a hard slog because A, we have a limited page number, as most journals do. And when we are early writers and we start to learn creative writing, one of the strategies is to just tell students to, just spill the beans on the page. Just tell it like it is. And that's a good thing because it breaks a lot of these kind of constrictions and restrictions on the mind for writing, right? But the result of that is like 56-page essays with way too much being spilled. We can't publish a 56-page document because when you see that it's 56 pages long, you just might not read it. So we like to keep a reasonable size to the 18s to 20s. And to get something from 54 pages down to 18 pages is just an incredible amount of work. Especially when an editor is not free to do it themselves. You don't want to do that to honor their work. So we want to work with them to pare it down. And that takes a lot of back and forth negotiating. Are you okay with this? No, I really like that idea. I don't think you should change that sentence because it really changes what I was trying to say, et cetera, et cetera. We end up with from 54 to 48 is easy. From 48 to 18 is incredible. So we need some editorial assistance and we provide that. And so this is to help students lose some fear that because it isn't good enough. I already know that it's not grammatically correct, and I don't want to offer it to you because I'm not really all that proud of it. We say, send it in to us anyway. We will look at the manuscript. We will help you in the editorial process. And then we will send it out for review. So it is a peer-reviewed journal. And the articles are sent out to peers. And by that we mean 1 or 2 university professors in the field and 1 or 2 fellow peers of theirs, master's students, who will also review and give their feedback. We did exactly the same thing with Ion Science. It also was peer reviewed because we wanted to recreate what it's like to actually get something published out in the real world. But it also included student reviewers at their grade level. And so we give some guidelines as to how to prepare your manuscript and then how to send it to us, which is very simple. There is an email address, and we do it by simple email. Email us a Word document of your material, and then we will take it from there and keep a communication with you through the review process and let you know whether it will be published, and if so, when. And we've kept it really, really simple. Well, that's about it in terms of the technical and the philosophical. And so we're really happy with the JEI and hope that it kind of grows in. Right now we don't have that many articles, but we're hoping to get more and more as time goes on. Right on. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maurice, for bringing up the ball.
Thanks, Maurice.
Overtime. Oh, we're right on time almost.
Impressive.
Pretty good, eh, Todd?
That was awesome.
No, I mean the timing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Now, where's the coffee?
Must be coming. I didn't order it.
Kim said 10:25. He said you're
Yeah.
taking that.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this, since we have school system people here,
No.
I'll have to wait till we
Well,
Okay, you're gonna be able to, okay. We'll get the screen shared.
So if we want to pass information on that,
We haven't done that, have we, in terms of setting up.
I had no
mobile
idea,
email?
but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I wish you hadn't that in chat, but you should have been in more recent.
Well, you know, and there's a recording, right, Todd? These are all recorded, right, Todd?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
You can figure it out that way.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea.
Oh, that's great. Well, we hope to grow it, right? It's all about getting
Well,
more.
we got to